Well, good morning, everybody. A literally warm welcome to our webinar organized and hosted by the Nature and Recreation Working Group of Eurosite. I'm very happy to see the large numbers of people joining this webinar. Welcome, Mart, for having a presentation on access to natural areas. We have some housekeeping rules, so please keep your audio and video disabled. And if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A tab, and we'll interrupt Mart, or we'll give you a written answer to your questions. And at the end, there is also extra time for getting your questions posted and answered. A short introduction of Eurosite. I don't know if all of you know about Eurosite. Eurosite is an association of nature management organizations established in the 80s of last century. And the main goal of Eurosite is to connect and to exchange expertise and knowledge on all sorts of topics on nature management and nature protection. Recreation is one of them, and that's why we established this working group where we facilitate the discussion and the exchange of experiences. So that's what we're doing. That's also the reason why we have organized this webinar on a very interesting topic, which is the management of digital information on the access of our areas. And we've seen, and that's the expertise of many land managers, nature managers, that due to the use of all sorts of applications, bikers, hikers come into nature and have in areas we actually designed for rest and not for intense recreational use. And Mart will tell us a little bit about what we can do about it and how to manage this information. And I think a very relevant topic in the current world we're in. So Mart, welcome again, and please take over the mic and introduce yourself and start presenting your knowledge and your experience.
Yeah, thank you, Theo. So everyone, welcome. My name is Mart Reiling. You can add me on LinkedIn if you want to know more about what we do and follow us, etc. I will just start sharing my screen with you to show you what we want to tell. But first of all, my background is that I am a landscape architect. And about 10 years ago, we founded the office of Track Landscapes. And we basically focus on trying to collect crowdsourced data, or different types of data at least, to show how landscapes are configured, so how they are designed, how they are used by people, and how they are experienced. And today I want to tell you about 3 different types of crowdsourced data, how they work and how they can be of value to land managers like yourselves. Well, you're just looking at my website right now, which is not the most interesting part for you. I hope everybody can see my screen where my web browser is open, where I'm going to show you things. Yes, it's possible. Okay, cool. So the first thing I would like to tell you about, and it's a bit the basis of this presentation, it's about OpenStreetMap. Nowadays, a lot of people that go out cycling or hiking or doing any sorts of recreational activity in which a route is part of the activity, let's call it that way, a lot of them plan their routes through applications like Komoot or Komoot. And there's many of these sorts of applications. You have Komoot, you have Strava, you have RouteU, you have OSM and many others. But basically, you know, how people see the world nowadays before they go somewhere is how the world is presented in apps like these. And basically, people will, you know, when you go to Komoot, you can click on activities that other people have performed. So they've done a hike here, and you can say like, hey, I'm going to do that route as well, export the route and use it. But in any way, this route has been drawn by someone. You know, someone made this route and then shared it on his profile, and others can then use it. Well, how does that work? Basically, if I now start planning a new route, I get into Komoot. Well, let's say I'm going for a gravel ride, for example. I can say, okay, I am right here on the camping. That's where I'm starting. Set as start, and I want to go gravel riding to some place. Well, it draws me this route, and for you, this might just be coincidentally you see this map and all pathways shown to be like cyclable, or you can cycle there, but that's actually not very true. So basically, all these different types of apps, which are Komoot, Strava, name them, they all make use of the same base information, and that is OpenStreetMap. If you look in the right corner here, in the very, very, very small letters, you see at OpenStreetMap contributors. And OpenStreetMap is a platform where basically everybody, myself, you as landowners, and any individual can make this map. It is crowdsourced. It is built by people. And so the way your areas are being shown in these apps, so where the pathways are, where the forests are, where facilities are, where campgrounds are, where toilets are, name it, it is all based on what we put into these maps ourselves, what kind of information. So you have influence of that, and it determines how people can see your area and how they can use it. And now let's get back to the cycling route that I just drew. It chooses a certain route on which, you know, I'm proposed to go cycling. And there is a reason why it takes this route and not another route. For example, if I draw my route to some other place, to here, it will show a route, but you will also see one alert on the left side of my screen. One alert for this route, and then you can see the details. And then it says, includes a segment in which cycling is not permitted. Basically, what Komoot does, it tries to, in the first place, avoid that your route will use pathways where cycling is not permitted. You can, if you want, draw or drag your route onto a route like that, but primarily it will calculate your route on pathways where cycling is permitted. But how does Komoot know that? That's the question. And actually, what is the case is that within all these different lines that you see here, there is information. There is information on accessibility, for who it is accessible and for who it is not. And that is put in by people that work on OpenStreetMap. On OpenStreetMap contributors. And for example, if I now want to draw my route into this real estate here, I actually got married here in this real estate. You will see that Komoot refuses to do that. I cannot put my route on that real estate. Well, why not? If I zoom in a little bit more, you will see these, well, what is it? Like a stop sign. It means that these are pathways, they exist, but they are on a private property where you are not allowed to be.
Oh, Mart, there is a problem with your connection. We're not hearing you at the moment.
Can you still hear me? Because I got
Yes. Now,
okay, I got
now you can. Yeah.
okay, that's good. So that's what the way it is shown right here. And basically every app uses that data in a little bit of a different way. So if I go, for example, to Strava, you see that the base map that is shown, it looks different. It has a different appearance, but the data that is behind it is exactly the same. It is all OpenStreetMap. And also the way that route calculations are made and what is allowed and not is a little bit different between these apps. So for example, if I draw with Strava my route to some place, it will also take that same route that I just drew. But if I now want to draw my route on some forest pathway here, you can see it doesn't do that. It just refuses to do that. Why? Well, there is a piece of information on these pathways that cycling isn't allowed there. And Strava have decided that they do not allow you to plan your route on those pathways. Komoot, on the other hand, does allow you to draw your route there, but you do get a warning that it isn't allowed. So there's different ways in which different apps use this information to basically allow you to draw certain routes or not. Well, so it uses OpenStreetMap. That's the most important base of information. And what is OpenStreetMap? Well, it is, like I said, a crowdsourced platform, and everybody can just make an account and start working on making the map better. So it is a worldwide platform. You're just in my account now. I think worldwide about 10 million people have an OpenStreetMap account, and maybe they're not all equally active on building a map, but there is at least hundreds of thousands of active people making this map all together. And you, as land associations, you can work on it too. You can decide and have influence on the way that your areas are represented to people, in which they can draw routes on it or not. And thus the way that your areas are being used or not. So how does this work? Well, if I go to the pathway where I just was, that was right here. I can click on edit. You can actually see it has a green dotted line here. That means that it is allowed for cycling. I think this map just got a new visualization, by the way. But the red dotted lines mean that cycling isn't permitted. But if I now go to editing, you will start see the editing environment of OpenStreetMap. If I zoom it a little bit more, you need to be at a certain zoom level. It will load the data that is behind all these apps. And if I now click on this road, you will see the different types of information that are added to this specific road. So it has a tag, that's how we call it, that says bicycle yes. That means you are allowed to cycle there. And so Komoot and Strava use this data so to know what is allowed and what is not. It said food, yes. It says highway is path. Highway has nothing to do with a highway like for cars. It's the type of pathway that is the highway, and a path is just a general, mostly like forest pathway, pretty narrow, which are used by cyclists, pedestrians mainly. In this case, what you also see is that there is a reference to mapillary with a number. That means that there is a reference to a picture on the platform of Mapillary that shows information on accessibility. In this case, I added that one myself. I also added a piece of information here that is reference wegenlegger. What is that? Well, the wegenlegger is a map in the Netherlands, which has a legal right. It determines what rights of usage you have on certain roads, and every municipality has a wegenlegger. And if this road is present on the wegenlegger, it means basically that I am allowed to enter that road 24 hours a day, and I'm allowed to cycle on it, easily said. So this is different pieces of information which are added to that pathway, and then are used by these apps. If I now go to this link, for example, of Mapillary, so I can copy this number, for example, and I can paste that into Mapillary. I already had it open, but you see that same number here in the link, in which you can add. You will get to the platform of Mapillary, and basically Mapillary is a platform that is connected to OpenStreetMap, in which a lot of people have just been riding around with a camera on their head, making pictures of the environment and making pictures of traffic signs and access signs. Because we are actually not allowed in OpenStreetMap to use Google Street View data to make the map of OpenStreetMap complete. So we have to collect data in other types of ways. Well, this is a picture from myself in Mapillary of that pathway that I just showed. And what does it show? Well, it shows, see it on the right side, the sign that is put up here that shows you what you are allowed to do in this area and what you are not allowed to do. And basically, what this sign tells you, I can zoom in on it. I don't know how many people speak Dutch that are present, but it says that cycling is not allowed. It also said that you are not allowed to be present there after sunset. And actually, this sign isn't allowed to be there at all. That's the truth. Because this is, by the wegenlegger, which I'll get back to, determined as a public road. Legally, this is a public road. And that means that as a landowner, you do not have the right to just tell this and this is allowed on this road. And it just looks like a normal forest way, which it is. It's just a forest pathway like any others, but it has a legal status in this case, in the wegenlegger. I will get back to that in a minute. Well, I'll get back to it right now, because that's an interesting thing to talk about when it comes to accessibility. Actually, this is different in every country, probably. But in the Netherlands, we have something called the wegenlegger, which determines which roads are public roads and which roads are not public. And the road where I was standing, that I was showing you, it's loading maps. That's the background of this. In the Netherlands, every municipality has a wegenlegger, which is a map. I have now collected 200 wegenleggers in the Netherlands. If I zoom out a little bit, it will start to load all these different maps, which are originated from all different moments in time. I have about 200 of them right now. But if I go to the real estate area where I showed the picture, I have to zoom in a little bit. We were actually standing right, I have to check, where was it? It was here. This red line that you are seeing here, shows, I have to zoom out a little bit more. Yeah, this red line you are seeing here is the pathway which I just showed you on the picture. And this map is the wegenlegger of 1957 by the municipality of Mart. So this map is 70 years old. It's laying somewhere in the archive of the municipality. But this is actually what legally determines where you whether you are allowed to come there on a bike or not. And for the fact that this road is on the wegenlegger, I am allowed to come there. And basically, in OpenStreetMap, we map what is your legal right to be at a certain place. So it's interesting to to realize that there is a physical reality of accessibility, which is just how pathways are shown to you, where there is a gate that is blocking you from accessing some point, and what access signs on a place tell you that you are allowed. Then there is a legal layer that determines on a legal basis what you are actually allowed there, and those two layers do not correspond always. What is told to you what is allowed at a path is not always what is really legally possible. And then there is the layer of the digital information, whether it is correctly mapped in OpenStreetMap, and how it is represented right there. So there is these three different layers of accessibility, you could say. Well, if I go back to Mapillary, so this sign was actually it's actually not allowed to put it on there. And there is hundreds, if not thousands, of pathways in the Netherlands where you have that right to be after sunset and the right to be on a bicycle, where actually the landowners tell you it's not allowed. There is other types of information that you can put into OpenStreetMap, which are also very relevant for agencies like that. I think there's questions actually. Is there?
No, not yet, Mart.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay, great. So for example, what you can also put into OpenStreetMap is the information on when is a pathway accessible and when is it not. So this is, for example, near my house in Soesterberg. We have an old runway for airplanes there where you can ride your bike and walk nowadays. It's just open to the public. It's not used anymore by airplanes. It's also said disused aeroway as a typology. But this runway is actually closed half the year when the birds are making eggs and when they are breeding. Then it is closed for the public because we don't want these birds to be disturbed by people being there, because then they will stop laying eggs, and these are pretty special birds. And you see in OpenStreetMap on this particular route, it says access conditional. So there is a conditional accessibility, and the condition is that you're not at 15 March to 15 August. That is when you are not allowed to be there. And you're also not allowed to be there between sunset and sunrise. That tells that there are certain restrictions in time when you are allowed to come there. The problem is that not all apps like Komoot, like Strava, etc., do use this information completely. So, for example, if I nowadays this runway is closed, but I can just still draw my route on it. And I do get an alert, which you see here in Komoot, and you can see details. Then it says it is open between sunrise and sunset. So that is the piece of information that it does tell you, but it also tells otherwise closed. So there is a period of time other than between sunrise and sunset at which it is also closed, but it doesn't exactly tell you when, even though that information is present in OpenStreetMap. That's a pity, actually, and in Strava, it's even more so. I can just, in Strava, draw my route completely on that road, actually, and it will not tell you anything. I could just draw it. You will get no information of the fact that currently this pathway isn't opened at all. So that's a little bit of a pity. So yes, apps can use this information much better. And I think also as organizations, we should really try to, give a little bit of pressure that they do this in a proper way, because there's a lot of volunteers putting a lot of time into making this information available. So yeah, should be used in that way. And all the rules which are behind OpenStreetMap are actually all in a catalog. We call that the wiki. because OpenStreetMap is like the Wikipedia of maps. And here in this wiki, there's all the descriptions on when do you put certain types of information on a pathway and when not. So that all around the world, the understanding of what terms do have what kind of meaning in OpenStreetMap is all is on a similar level. That's very important, and there is always a lot of discussion about what do we use as tags in certain situations. And for example, before I started, I have now been working for Komoot and also for the Dutch Cycling Federation, NTFU, to start mapping in the Netherlands on a wide scale where you are allowed to cycle or not. Because actually it's a little bit of a problem that in the Netherlands, about 80% of forest pathways do not have the information on whether cycling is allowed. And actually on a lot of these forest paths, cycling is not allowed. And thus all these apps will draw a route there and you'll get to places where you're not allowed to be. That's what happens a lot. So we are also extending that collaboration, and in the future I will be working on it even more. But behind that, there is also a big discussion with the whole OpenStreetMap community, which are the people which are working on such themes themselves as well. So for example, here I proposed how I want to start editing this cyclability in OpenStreetMap. And we have a discussion with other people on how to do that in a proper way and what arrangements do we make on how you should do this. Well, there's 130 messages of discussion on the proper way of doing such things. So there is a lot of community behind that OpenStreetMap, and you are not just allowed to do anything in OpenStreetMap. You should be doing it according to well, what the arrangements are, and that's very important. But to show you, for example, in the Netherlands, all pathways here that have a red line have a tag cycling is not permitted. So this is Utrecht, my area, that's pretty well covered. But if I, for example, now go to another area, I just use a different map. This is a map from one of the OpenStreetMappers that he made himself. Here, all the blue lines represent forest lines where it is not a piece of information yet in OpenStreetMap whether you are allowed to cycle there or not. So basically, this is the Veluwe, one of the biggest forest areas in the Netherlands. And a lot of pathways there do not have that information yet. And so that means these route planners, you just draw your route in these areas. And let me see. Oh, wait. That is actually... Oh. Wait, oh, yeah, I have to go here. That is actually unfortunately because this is a project by another OpenStreetMapper. He has been gathering the information of the landowners of this Veluwe area. So what are the boundaries of the areas which they own and manage? And for every area, he has been mapping what is allowed there and what is not. And this is also a layer within OpenStreetMap of the different areas. And for example, if you click on this area, you will see axis, permissive, axis sign cycling is no, axis sign dog is leashed. So your dog should be leashed in this area, but you are allowed to be there on foot. And then he puts a link in it, again to Mapillary, and you will see the image of the axis sign, which is present for that area. Actually, this is a military practical or practice region where you are allowed to walk, but you are not allowed to cycle there. So if you see what's on the sign, it will tell you the rules. Now, so for the Veluwe, a lot of this has been mapped for the areas, but it has not yet been translated to the pathways. So this was the area I was just showing. All these pathways, which are blue, lay in this military area where you're not allowed to cycle, but the information isn't yet in OpenStreetMap. So you can draw your routes on it, and people will just go there without knowing. So that's unfortunate. So this is basically how OpenStreetMap works and how you can draw value from it. Actually, there's also interesting areas here on the Veluwe. For example, this is the Kroondomein. Our king lives there, and you can see that is also what he put in the description, is that the access of this area is seasonal. So from 15 September to 25th of December, this area is closed entirely, also for people who just want to walk, and put up different links which show the different signs in which that is shown in Mapillary. So, for example, this is the sign that is put up there, and it says from 15 September to 25 December, this area is closed off, and what the other rules are. So that is how we collect this information in OpenStreetMap, and hope that these apps will use it properly, because there's a lot of work of a lot of volunteers making this. And again, you as an agency can work on it as well, as long as you do it by the rules which are set in OpenStreetMap, which are agreed on.
Mart, there is a question coming in from Mike Dodd. He's asking, what about if you are only allowed to cycle if you pay?
Yeah, there is specific types of tags for that as well. And if you will Google it, you will get to the wiki of OpenStreetMap on that specific topic. For example, we have mountain bike routes where you need to have we call it a vignette. You need to have like a proof that you've paid something, and then you are allowed to do it. I think the tag is cycling is toll or something. Like you have to pay something in order to get in there. And actually, maybe I can show you in this. For example, here the Park Hoge Veluwe, that is this big area. I think you also have to pay to get in there. It says access yes.
Yeah, it says fee yes.
Fee is yes. So that means you have to pay a fee to get in there. So that is the tag in this case. And there's certain areas in the Netherlands where you have to pay fee to get in there. But it can also account to cycling, so you can put this on areas like these leisure areas, but you can also put these tags on specific pathways. But then the real question is, do these route planners then use that information to communicate with the people who are drawing a route in Komoot or Strava? Currently not yet. And then that is also often a reason that this type of tag isn't so much present in OpenStreetMap. There's not a lot of mappers that focus on this type of tag. There are some, but it's pretty incomplete on this aspect. What is it? A second form of crowdsourced data, which I'd like to show you something of, is very much related to this OpenStreetMap story. It is data from Strava Metro. And maybe you have seen this map once before. It basically shows the usage of pathways by the Strava community, people that are using the application of Strava. And you can nowadays select a variety of different types of activities. For example, if you say walking, then you will see an indication of where people have been walking that were using Strava. Now, this is actually really interesting information because you can start to see which areas are more busy and which are less busy. So where you have to do maybe more crowd management kind of like things or otherwise, where you have to think about the way your infrastructure is designed. But what is also interesting here is OpenStreetMappers are using this information to make OpenStreetMap complete. So for example, if you start zooming into forest areas, I can click out the heat map, then you will see the OpenStreetMap, which is the base layer, which is used in Strava. I click on the worldwide heat map, and then you start to see different interesting things. So here, right here, there is a pathway. There seems to be a pathway in OpenStreetMap, but there doesn't seem to be anyone that is really using it. That could mean several things, but there is actually quite a chance that this pathway doesn't exist anymore, or is hardly present. It has evaded, or has just been closed off. But the thing is, in OpenStreetMap, you have to go there and check if that is the case before you start editing OpenStreetMap. And also other places like here, for example, I see that people have been walking from this pathway to this pathway, but there isn't really a pathway in OpenStreetMap there. So that could be a sign for me, hey, let's go there, let's check it, and let's see if there is actually a pathway that I should maybe put into OpenStreetMap. So nowadays, people are using this Strava usage information, which is very interesting in itself, but they are also using it to make the map more complete, which is kind of nice. You can, as a land organization, or at least as a governmental organization, apply for a platform that is called Strava Metro. And Strava Metro is a platform in which Strava shares the data of its users, data that is aggregated. So it is plotted on OpenStreetMap streets, so it becomes anonymous. And you can start to see in numbers, in real amounts, how many cyclists, how many walking people, how many runners have been using different pathways. And that's actually a really convenient crowdsourced tool to use or to think about managing your environments. So I have access to Strava Metro of the Netherlands, for example, which is in the end this platform. You can then choose to download data. I'm not going to explain you everything about this, but in the end, what I can do with that, I can load that into my QGIS, for example. And here you start to see for every pathway that is within OpenStreetMap, so that is the basis that they use for this information, how many people have been walking or running there. And you will see it in exact numbers. If you click on the pathway, you can also see the legenda, the numbers, which represent the different colors. So yellow and orange is more, blue is become less people that have been using a pathway. And this, well, at least I have access to the entire Netherlands of this information, and it shows where are more busy places and places that are less busy with recreational movements. And there is a variety of different users that you can show. Basically, the most important here is pedestrians, which are runners and recreational walkers. And secondly, sports cyclists. So race cyclists, mountain bikers, gravel riders also use Strava a lot. And also their usage and where they go, you can see. Now, this is also interesting for me because I can also see, like, hey, here at the east side of Ede, where I was before, this was the area where you were not allowed to cycle. And in this data, I can actually see whether people are doing it or not. And in this case, it's not too many movements that go through that area, so not a lot of people are cycling there. I guess a lot of people know that it's a military area, etc. But there are places in the Netherlands also where I see in the OpenStreetMap data that cycling is not allowed in that area. And I do see in the Strava data that actually quite a lot of people do it. Well, I don't.
Mart, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yeah.
There is a question coming in whether if Strava also gives information about dogs, walkers, and where they go. Is that available? Mike
No.
Dodd is asking this question.
I also see a question. Can you remove the echo, please?
Yeah, that is but it's I personally don't have an echo. Somebody else asked me also, and he logged in again, and that helped him to come over the echo problem. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Then it's not too important. No, you cannot see where people go with dogs. I do not have that piece of information. No. Thank you
Oh,
for.
he asked it's a dog themselves. No, but that's are there trackers attached to dogs? Mike is asking, but no, they're not, I think.
No, that doesn't really happen. Or maybe there's one or two people that could do that, but in an insignificant amount, I would say generally.
Yeah.
It's basically people who runners use Strava a lot. So about 30% of runners use Strava, and people to go out for a recreational walk use it a lot less. But still, there's as much walking as running in this data group, and the other group is cyclists, but that's mainly like people with really a sports focus. So race cyclists, mountain bikers, gravel riders is what it shows. Yeah.
That indirectly answers another question by Jose Meyer. She's asking whether a Strava walker is also similar to the average walker. But to my knowledge, experience, Strava is mainly on sports activities, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there is a bit of a change going on in the usage of Strava that, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago, you wouldn't really record a general recreational walking activity. You used Strava for running or for cycling, was really a sport thing. Nowadays, you see a lot of people that are just mapping or recording their leisure walks as well. It's actually the biggest growing group within Strava. There's now almost in the Netherlands, at least, as many walking activities as there is cycling activities in Strava. So that's a real big change, but still, let's say people that go for a small walk through their neighborhood of maybe 1 or 2 kilometers, those are mainly not recording that with Strava.
Yeah.
People that go out to some place and do a walk of 5 or 10 kilometers or longer and really see that as a substantial activity, they use Strava, or they record that on Strava much more. So it's much more an image of how those people walk. But for nature areas, that is actually a really interesting group, because basically people go to nature areas to do, more substantial walks. A lot of people do, and that's a large share of the usage of your area. So, for example, this shows hiking activities with Strava and the amount in which places are being used. Well, you see around the city of Ede, the forest around the city, there is actually quite a lot of usage, but then the Veluwe around it also gets more tranquil, less usage the further away you get from the city, basically. So that's interesting. And were there other questions, Theo?
No, not yet.
Yeah. No. And where it does get also interesting is when you start combining this Strava data with the OpenStreetMap data of accessibility. And what we are trying to do now is use that Strava data to improve OpenStreetMap. So what we do, for example, I'll show you this map. Of every pathway I have looked at OpenStreetMap, what's the information on accessibility? And on the other hand, I've looked at how much is it used by Strava. And you will be pointed towards pathways where interesting things are happening. So, for example, all the red lines you see here means that those are pathways that have a tag which tells it is not allowed to access that path. But here is a yellow pathway. What does it say in my QGIS? It says accessibility, it's a yes, but I doubt whether that is actually true. Why? Well, in this case, let me click on it. It's just the one that it's a surface road. You call that in OpenStreetMap, which is basically an access road, but generally that is supposed to be open. But at the same time, I see, and that is why is it? I see that within Strava, only 20 people have been using it in a full year. Well, that is a very low number, a super low number. And that means that there's actually a big chance that there is some kind of a sign or something that tells people you're not allowed to come here, but that information is not yet in OpenStreetMap. Doesn't have to be the case, but it's an indicator that the information on this pathway might not be complete. And there's actually a lot of, for example, if I go to more the Utrecht area, right here, there is a lot of like real estate areas where it seems that you are allowed to come here, but OpenStreetMappers have given it a certain tag. So they have given it a tag here, which you see on the left, access private, which means it's not a publicly accessible pathway. And this whole area that you see here is tagged in that way. But at the same time, I see that almost 200 people have been using it, which is a sign for me like maybe it is public. So that is an indicator. Maybe we should go here and check what's actually really truth in accessibility. Now, the idea is I do this for Stichting Wandelnet to in total get or to use all this information to finally make a map that shows the publicly, yeah, it's loading, shows the network that is publicly accessible for pedestrians, which is this map that is now shown, and what types of pathways these are. And that is just by the combination of OpenStreetMap data and Strava data. And now we also want to give back this information on these pathways where I had my doubt on what the accessibility is. We want to give this information back to the OpenStreetMap community so they can also start working on improving this information. We're not that far yet, but that is the idea that we are going to do. That's most importantly what I wanted to tell. I have one last thing I wanted to tell about this crowdsourced data, which I think is really interesting. The fact people nowadays use all these different types of apps to make their routes, and they map or they pan through these kinds of maps and they use it, and they start to become more familiar with these kind of digital platforms and digital maps. That also makes that people are much more able to give feedback or to share their wishes on their surroundings and environments in a digital way. So, for example, in the case of a project that we did in Dordrecht, we make a digital, I will show it a few slides from here. We make a digital survey in which we allow people, which you see here, to give input on positive and negative experiences in different areas, in natural areas and in urban areas, when they go out for a walk or when they go running. And they can say what they want to have improved in their environment, which is very interesting information for me as a landscape architect, but also as a landowner. But it is because this digital world of maps is so much more familiar to people nowadays that they are also able to provide you their experience on places through these digital tools. 20 years ago, people would have had much more difficulty in trying to point places in digital maps. And nowadays, people are starting to get better at that. And the consequence is that you can, like, on a pretty big scale, collect, well, also crowdsourced data is what I would call it. But then really on the experience and the wishes that people have. So for example, here you see in the map about 500 different negative experiences of different types of people moving through their city, moving through their landscapes, and what they wish for that environment, where they want pathways to be improved, where they want more safety in their environment, where they want crossings of roads to be better, all kinds of variety of wishes from people. But this now also becomes a very interesting way of crowdsourcing data, actually, and it has everything to do with the fact that these digital maps are getting more common, and
Yeah.
people know them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also interesting.
Wow, Mart, it's I think it was a steaming hour of knowledge exchange on digital mapping, the qualities behind the lines you see as a user on your Komoot app or whatever app you're using, about the challenges we as nature managers are facing to get this information right in the OpenStreetMap, as well as I think we need to start talking to these application builders like Komoot and like Strava to really use the official information that is on the OpenStreetMap. We as nature managers should also take care of the legal status of what we do with roads and be aware of the official status and don't misbehave on this well basic principle, so to say. Yeah, and also the users data and also knowing that Strava is a sports application used by those who like to share their activities and also to reflect themselves on their activities. I think that's good to know and to learn. I think it was a very interesting and amazing presentation you gave, Mart, and it's all recorded. We can all review, well, see it and in maybe a slower pace to learn about all the different websites you have to go through and see where you can add your information. I don't see many response coming from the. Oh, there is one question about from Casimir. He's concerned about the overload of technology and information during holiday and time off. Could you reflect on that, Mart?
Yeah, I think he means like that people, when they go on a holiday, they're still very busy with their computer and smartphone to plan these routes, etc. Yeah, maybe, but the reason that people use these apps is because they are also very easy and convenient. So, and people are so used to doing it. I mean, if I go to some place that I'm not very familiar with and I want to go for a hike or a run, basically it's so easy to catch a route from Komoot or whatever and put it on my smartwatch and go do it. Yeah, I still have to use my phone a little bit, but you know, I don't think for many people that's too much of an issue. and I mean, you can concern about it, but that has just become the world we live in, and
Yeah.
I'm very open to talk about restricting smartphone usage in general, but I don't think this is the biggest part of the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
generally true that we're
yeah,
all completely addicted to these to smartphones and apps and etc. But I don't think this is
yeah,
a really big part of the problem in that.
yeah. Casimir is responding to it that taking a break from computing, but I do think that using your phone when outdoors in nature, guiding you through nature is also a tool for many users. But most of all, and I think that that's the relevance of your presentation, is that nature managers are confronted with this way of getting your exercise together and getting your hike and your run and your biking tour organized and that's plotted in areas where you as nature manager don't want them to show up and I think that is the big deal. And yes, I foresee an extra role for nature managers to also manage this type of information and communication behind the screens towards your users and visitors of natural areas. And well, looking at the different sites and open the Q&A and the chat box, there are already some compliments coming in for the talk you gave, Martin. I follow up these compliments. It is really. There is another question too. Is it Ilyana Ivanchenko? She's from the Danube Delta National Park. Whether you can use these tools also on water?
Yes, generally speaking, waterways are also it can be drawn as areas or they can be drawn as lines in OpenStreetMap. And I think this is a topic I haven't been really working on yet, but I think it is possible to, in a water line, to say like you can go there on a canoe or a boat or whatever. I think that's possible indeed as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
should be. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think yeah, I think it's possible.
yeah. Thank you, Mart. And well, it's and also well, this is the moment of the digital flower, of course. But thanks a lot, Mart, for giving this presentation. I think it really is interesting, and for me, actually more stronger, mind blowing, more or less, an all new area of knowledge I've been using, but you know what's going on behind the screens I wasn't aware of. So again, thanks for that. Taylor, also thanks for hosting this meeting and for all of you, thanks for joining and being here in this webinar. Feel free to connect to Eurosite or to the working group on nature and recreation. With all your input, we'll be able to host more interesting webinars and discussions, etc. So feel free. It actually is also free. You don't need to be a member of Eurosite to join the working group. But it's always good to have you on board and have a fruitful discussion on no matter what topic. I mean, the moment you think it's needed to start this discussion, join us. Well, this was a short advertising moment, but thanks for joining us. Have a nice day and hope to meet again on the next occasion. Thank you.
Thank you.